wait for you don't need to wait for your housing portal to get activated. The details of Zior we will tell you in a while. So for most of you, since this is relevant, we've put this in the presentation. Then for private housing, this is a bit more complex. So you first of all would I assume that most of you would prefer to stay in Delft, but if you want to live in a bigger city with a more happening social life, then you can also try for Rijswijk, Rotterdam, or Den Haag. And there are some people who come from Leiden, though it is a bit far, but you're open to explore your options. And how you do it is through these private platforms. So most of the people who look for Rijswijk will be choosing this Yakpad one. So this is what is the most famous in Rijswijk, but of course there are other private housings that you can find on any of the online platforms. We've put just 5 or 6 here for your reference, but there are n number of platforms we encourage you to just explore on your own. These are the ones that are most famous here. So be quick with it, because housing in Netherlands is quite a conundrum and it's very, very difficult to find a house here. So be very quick with your decisions and start looking for your house now. It'll take a long time. A lot of us had troubles with finding a house, so do not take this lightly. Um, also a couple of things to do when you're looking at houses on private housing platforms. Do not agree to anything without seeing it. So I do understand that most of you are in India right now, so you obviously cannot go personally. But if you know somebody from the senior batch or somebody that is already living here, you can ask them to go, or you can request a video call and stuff like that. But do not agree to anything without seeing it yourself or somebody you trust. Housing scams are a very, very common thing here. So please be careful while searching for a private house. We also have quite a few housing platforms. So you see one of them here on the screen, which is the Delft House Hunt, but we have multiple groups for housing in Rotterdam, housing in Den Haag. So uh, you will find the details of that uh, in whichever housing group you join. So just join a group, and then you will be able to connect to people in various other groups as well. So this was the short overview of what we wanted to tell everyone. But then what we have planned for today is we'll split into two groups. One for the ones who have who will be getting access to the university housing platform, and one for the ones who will be looking for private housing, so that we can address your concerns separately and more effectively. So we'll be starting with the breakout rooms, and you can join the breakout room that concerns you. And there we will go a bit more into detail about each of these things. And it will also eventually be open to questions that you might have.
Can you mute yourself?
So hey guys, just one moment. Yeah, can you guys hear me clearly? Yeah. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open two breakout rooms. Each of them is titled either duo housing or private housing. And make sure that you just join each of them. They both will be recorded and then later be put up on YouTube as well. So it's not that you will miss out on something. So whatever questions you have, you can just put in the chats, and then we can try to answer them one by one, so that it becomes less chaotic. Yeah. I'll open the breakout now. Hey guys. So what you can do is whatever questions you have, you can just put them in the chat and we can try to answer them one by one. What I can also do very quickly is also give you a brief overview of how, like, uh, So yeah, so in private housing, usually these are the few websites, and how we usually go about it is it's literally first come first serve basis, and it's the market is very competitive because you're not just competing against students, but you're also competing against other people who want housing in general in Netherlands. So I would really suggest to the moment you see a how do you say you see a opening somewhere that okay there is something available, try to contact them as fast as possible. They usually ask for introduction that okay who you are and what do you do. They ask some basic details so you can put them up. Just make sure that before you sign you read it completely. Do not send any, they will always try to pressurize you that oh I'm right now not in Netherlands, so please just send me the money and we will discuss the details later on, because they know that you guys are in need. So make sure that you don't come into those traps. But any questions in general which we can answer?
Hi, this is Monica.
Yeah,
So I
go ahead.
had just registered for a room in Yagpad yesterday, and I see that the opening starts on 17th August. But then I had already booked my flights for 7th August. This was like a month ago. So where could I find a temporary, like a 10-day stay? Is there a hostel or some sort of arrangement for that? Like a
Uh,
hostel.
yeah. I had the same situation as well. My housing was starting much later than in your case. I would say I just chose an Airbnb for
Okay.
the extra days I couldn't find a place. But then, yeah, I think Airbnb is a bit expensive. I can't think of any hostels. Maybe Airbnb is your best bet. It's also because it's just 10 days.
Okay.
So, yeah, it doesn't
Can you
make
tell me
sense to
how
even look
much?
for a sublet if it's longer. Uh,
Okay,
yeah,
how
sorry.
much that cost? Can you ballpark an image?
Because I came in 2021, there was COVID. The prices were
Uh,
very cheaper. I'm not sure right now. You have to check. I'm sorry.
okay, I can check them online. Cool.
Yeah, you can check in the app or the website.
Thank you.
Yeah. And also, by the way, I'll just encourage everyone to, because we have less participants here, we can turn on our videos. It'll be a bit more better to interact. But it's up to you, people.
So there is one more question which says ongoing private platforms, most of the rooms available on rent do not have starting from August. Yeah, that is true. Usually they start from like July and all, but I think you can always apply, and if you get lucky, then that's great. But most of the time they are always like, oh no, we want someone who wants to start immediately because they don't want to lose out on the rent for July. But you can always attempt, like the thing is you just need to keep on attempting till the time you get into something. So I would say just keep hunting. That would be my suggestion. And for you, Yakpar, can you say
Yeah, I just wanted to add about just what Siddharth was saying. It's very common to find houses where they want you to start from July. It's very common. But I would say don't be discouraged to pay the extra rent. Let me tell you, it's better to pay for July, the extra month of rent, even though you're not here, and get the house, than look at the hassle of getting a house that's starting from August. The money you pay in extra rent, you will save in travel expenses and all the other stress that you'll be going through living in Hague or in Rotterdam. So go ahead, don't be worried about paying that.
more details?
Oh yeah, I see the question. More details about Yakpad 1. I don't know if that's the room number or is that the. So in Yakpad, the setup is very similar, at least how I saw it, was very similar to how I was living in my bachelor in my hostel. So you have a lot of rooms in a single floor, and then you have a big common kitchen for I think up to 5 to 8 people, depending on the floor. So you have to share the kitchen and all the space. So it's a big area where you can actually sit and eat. There's like a dining area and a kitchen. and then the restrooms and the showers are shared. From what I heard, there is daily cleaning, or at least weekly. There's like external like people who come, housekeeping people who clean it once a week, is what I remember, or daily. I don't know if it has changed. So that's something I think you can always email the providers, the real estate agent. But from what I heard, personal experiences, it's like everyone in a floor or in an area of 5 to 8 rooms together, they have a combined, let's say, a collective agreement to have cleaning schedules. So they clean, and then the kitchen as well as the showers and restrooms. So that's something that's very common here, I feel, in a shared housing, that you would have cleaning schedules, and then you would somehow manage and keep the house clean amongst yourself. So there is like, because for example, in other external housing, there is no housekeeping. At least here, I know that maybe on a weekly basis in Yakpad, it does get cleaned. And yeah,
Also,
that's it, I guess.
can I add on to? So Yakpad is basically in Reiswijk, which is about 4-5 kilometers away from the university. So it'll take about half an hour to like cycle all the way till the university. So, and it's one of the most social places. So if you are a social person and you enjoy hanging out, I mean, the common room there is like huge, and there are a lot of social parties and stuff happening there. So if you're a social person, I think that would be a great option. So yeah, but just keep in mind that it takes about 30-40 minutes cycling from Reiswijk, but there is also a tram station right opposite Yakpad. So that is also it's pretty convenient that way, and it's one of the most near towns to Delft. So yeah.
And would we be able to apply for the allowance if Yakpad was the housing option?
No, because the allowance is only for, rooms with like a studio apartment with, your own kitchen and your own bathroom. So applying for an allowance wouldn't work in Yakpat. And I think the rent depends on the size of your room. So it varies anywhere between 500 to 700 in Yakpat, I think,
Yeah.
including utilities. So that would be the rent, yeah. But allowance doesn't work in Yakpa. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you.
Also, then there's some, were there any more details to be shared, Harshita? The next question I'll take up is, what's the minimum contract period generally in private housing? It really depends. Usually the minimum they give, like a proper legit one, will give you like a year. Sometimes if they are planning to change the building or renovate it, it's usually 6 months. It really depends. How sublets work is usually subletting is okay till a month, but if the whole thing is, usually people give sublets where they don't allow you to register because somebody's just moving out, and they just need like temporary people to stay. So if the Comente comes at the home, Comente is basically the municipality over here, and if they figure out that you are staying illegally, meaning you are not registered at a Comente, then they can put fines on you. However, if suppose it's still a month, you can still try to take the risk of taking a sublet because it might be a little bit cheaper. But always be aware, like if you're getting a sublet, make sure that you get like a written informal contract where you just state down that, okay, what are you going to entail, what are the costs, so that later on you don't get into troubles. But long-term subletting, I would not suggest, because anything more than 3 months of subletting can become very risky, because if you're not registered, then it is a problem for sure. The next question is, rooms.nl allocates rooms based on how long you have been. So has anyone has experience?
Yeah, so I can take this one, I think. Can you hear me? Is it good? Yeah, so basically, with Room.nl, you need to have an account for at least like 4 or 5 years to be competitive. So I would say it's not really worth it if you're just looking for your master's. It's not really worth getting subscription yet, or just at all. Yeah, that's about it. It's just like 4 or 5 years or 6 years even. that's the when you'll actually start to get rooms. Otherwise, you just won't.
The next question is, what's the main difference between duo housing and private housing? The major difference in duo housing is basically duo is university provided housing. So basically, duo is like a service over here which provides to all the incoming students housing, but it is completely based on when do you pay your fees. So if you paid your fees very early, like maybe till May or even a bit before till April, then there is a bit more higher chances of you getting into a duo housing, which we would also recommend that, okay, if you can, great. If not, then you start searching housing on your own. So that's the major difference. In private housing,
Also, just to add, duo housing is basically only in Delft. UDEL students get duo housing only in Delft, right? And if you choose a private housing, you'll have to go out. Like, if you are lucky enough, you will get it in Delft. But usually, people look for private housings in Den Haag or Rotterdam because there are more options there. Delft is a small city which is already populated with duo housing. And yeah, so I think private housing is mostly out of Delft, and it's a little bit far, and commute you will have commutation, uh not problems, I would say, but like it would take longer for you to come, go. And but again, if you stay in like a bigger city, I feel there is a better life there, like a social life, or it's more populated with the working people. So if you like that, and private housing, of course, you have to pay a little bit more, I feel. So if all that's convenient for you, then private housing is a better option.
the next question is, in other private housings where utilities are not covered, how much does one have to pay for gas, water, internet? On an average, internet, it really depends which subscriptions you're taking, but that could be nearly like 40 euros for the entire house. So if suppose you're sharing it with four people, then it becomes 10 euros per person. Gas, water, electricity, it really depends on the energy label of the house which you're going to be getting. Usually, if it depends also on the occupancy. So for one person or two-person, it would range. But on an average, what I've seen is, Pata, do you think there's a ballpark figure? Because I think it's very subjective to how many people you stay with.
Yeah, so that's the point. With all these questions, I feel like it's best if I give just the situation I was in. For me, I was sharing a room with six others, so it was a seven room house in The Hague, and it costed around 50 to 100 euros per person per month. So that is like, again, the 100 it touches when you're using heating quite a lot. That's during the winter months. And then it's 50 during the summers because there is really not so much. And the energy rating was like around maybe C. It was not an A, it was not an E, it was somewhere in between. So better the energy rating, better in terms of insulation, and you will use less heating. That is what the energy, like the label actually means. And yeah, 50 to 100, I feel, again, it's just what I experienced, but you can always check with the real estate company or with the previous people who've stayed there because they would be able to tell you exactly. These questions you should ask them.
Then there are few questions there. Which platform provides housing with private bathrooms? I think all the websites will do. There you just have to filter based on what type of housing. The typical housings they get is fully furnished, which are a bit more expensive. Then you have something called as upholstered, where what you get is basic flooring and kitchen and bathroom are a bit there, but there's no furniture. Those are a little bit cheaper. And then the last category is they call it as the shell category, where there is nothing, no flooring, no there's basic kitchen and everything is there. That one is I wouldn't suggest you for now, because if you just come here, it would be very much more hassle for you to like go into those apartments. Those are usually cheaper because they are giving you a bare bone house. But yeah, I would suggest to go through all of them and see where your options being like, okay, what is better? And then, so that's what for Anshita, if I said your name correctly, that was the answer for you. So it really depends. Most of the housing they have private, like smaller studios, 2 BHKs, 3 BHKs as well. So you can search them up based on that. And then the next one is what are the common rental prices, including and excluding amenities when you take a room in Delft or Rijswijk? I think that's a bit more subjective, I would say again. They sometimes can even range between, like, if you're sharing a room, but okay, yours was private flat. Yeah, so if you're sharing a room, usually the rent can go up to somewhere, like it can really range. So it can also range between 400 to like 800 euros per month. But if you're taking a studio, sometimes it can also go up to 1200 euros a month. So it really depends how big the house is, how what are the amenities it is giving you, what is the energy label it is giving you. So there's no one right or wrong answer to it.
At least from my experience, what I've seen is houses in Delft and Rijswijk are slightly cheaper because more students like giving away their rooms to other students and things like that. But in Hague and in Rotterdam, I feel like the rents, at least on an average, 100 to 200 euros more than for the same, let's say, for the same meter square and for the same energy label. So that is something to be aware of. So if you stay a bit far or in big cities, rent is going to be slightly higher.
Also, then one is what's the general difference, rent difference between duo and private housing? Yeah, I think we already answered that as well. It again depends very on what type of whether it's shared or private. Then the next question is we have tried multiple platforms for private, nothing seems to be working out. Is there something which so as I said, for housing, this is the answer for KJ. Housing is a task over here for sure. So few things. There's also few websites which I can say. One is Bird and Rent Slam, other than Pararius and everyone. Why I'm giving you these is because these are these websites where you need to give a little bit of subscription, and it's always first come first serve basis. Like Pararius and all, the hosting of the web, like of the listing, comes a day or two later on. But if you want something much more faster, go to they call them as maklars. Maklars are basically real estate agents. Usually follow their own website also, because when the listing comes up on their portal, it comes first on their portal and then it goes to Pararius and Common.net and other websites, and it's always first come first serve basis. And the good you make your profile. What do I mean by profile? Is that profile is mainly about that, okay, who you are, what you do. If you write, like, choose chat GPT if you want to, like, write a nice description about yourself, give your basic details, and they only check. And then also look when you're applying, right? They also state, is this for working professional, is it for students or not? So if you're applying for working professionals, definitely you're not going to get into it, because they are looking for people who have, like, they're going to ask for a rental contract and everything. Sometimes it's also beneficial that if they'll ask that, okay, do you have a guarantor? So if you know someone who is like a PhD student or somebody else who can become your guarantor, that can sometimes support your application a little bit better. So that's like the major thing I would say when it comes to private housing, and like what are the ways to get in.
Just a small thing to add, because what we did also was, because we know who these markelars are, the real estate agents, just start shooting them emails and then start asking that, hey, do you have a house? If it's for a group, because in our case, it was the same thing. We contacted a company called Homey Housing in Hague. And then so one of us just kept emailing them and then kept following up that, yeah, do you have a house? Do you have a house? And then we have, it's not a problem. We can all take it together. Then we found people. Like, we found the house first. Then to apply for it, we were finding like the 7 people that we needed. So I would say it's because of the Indian Admits WhatsApp group. It's very easy to organize yourself. Finding people is not a big deal. Finding a house is. So you could go that.
Yeah, I would also say 2 weeks isn't that long of a time to start, like, for searching for housing. I know people who search for months and they still don't get anything. So, like, don't be discouraged exactly. Just it takes a lot of time and a lot of energy as well. So yeah.
Also, there's another question about you said you get a subsidy for a studio apartment. What qualifies as a studio apartment? Because a lot of apartments listed on other websites say that there is no subsidy. So, studio apartment is basically a room with a kitchen inside and with a bathroom inside. So, it's just one person living with, a place for you to sleep, a kitchen, a small kitchenette, and a bathroom for yourself. So, if that is the case, then you get a subsidy. But again, my colleague Ishan has put in a link below. It's known as Belasting Dienst. So you can visit that website and look into the exact requirements of the subsidy. If yeah.
Yeah, just a small note about this. It's just that I think what qualifies is mainly the basic rent. The basic rent has to be low enough. The exact number, like Harshita said, look at the website, has to be low enough for it to qualify for rent subsidy. So that is the main thing that you should look at, because many studios that are very expensive, they always break down the rent in terms of basic and amenities and utilities and whatnot. So have a look at that number, and that is what decides. And then your age also decides. If you're 23 and above, then you get the maximum subsidy. I think if you're under 23, you either don't get, or the amount is reduced. The age 23, I'm sure of. Again, these details you should be able to find on the website.
One more tip, like here, I've sent this one link called as energylabel.nl. What I have done usually is that whenever I come up over a website, right, and then there is a little bit potential chances that okay, I can get it. Usually just put the postcode, the house number and everything, and it exactly tells you what is the energy label. And if it goes below C, you have at least you have to be aware that your energy costs are gonna be a bit higher, because lower the energy label, like being like higher than like C, D, E, F, G, the more the bad the insulation of the houses, and during especially in the winters, your energy bills can be higher. So I'm not saying don't take those houses. I'm just saying be aware, be conscious of the decisions that you would take when you are coming for, like when you're going for such housings. It's good to be aware and being noted, like, and it shouldn't feel like okay later on you will like, oh, I wasn't aware of this. So just make sure that you would do this. The next question is, which areas would you recommend us all to look at, taking account travel, can't, rental range, a list of very handy. Are there any costs in the areas that we should avoid in terms of safety? Uh, so I would say, as we have mentioned it before, is finding in Delft is fast, like better. A rent would be a little bit cheaper. You could go for Rijswijk is one. There are people also stay sometimes in Pijnaker. It's also something which is nearby. There is something called Delft. It's not a village, but the name is just that. So these are a few nearby places which you can, and then probably just cycle to the university. It would be a little bit like 20-30 minutes cycling, but it's also sometimes not a lot. So I would say if you're getting something, go for it. The more further you will go, maybe Rotterdam, Hague, and everything, you will find houses which are a little bit more expensive, and also there's travel costs which come in between of those. So I would say weigh your options out. First is find the houses which you can, because sometimes it's very difficult for you to like figure out that, oh, like we think that we'll get a lot of options, but I, to be honest, if I give you a reality check, I graduated a long year ago, and then when I wanted to also find a housing, it took me 4 months to find a housing. So I'm not daunting you. You can also get lucky. You can find it in a month as well, in 2 weeks as well, in 4 weeks as well. Keep on trying. That's the only way to get a housing. It's like keep on trying till the time you find something. Eventually you will find something, but just keep on trying. That's the only way to go about it.
I'll take the next question. If we find a room and needs a visit, can ISA help here? ISA as a group, maybe not, but then try to find people that you talk to. I'm sure you would have talked to the people who are already studying here in your own program, or people from somewhere in your bachelor university. Find some connections from there, because unless there is a somehow like even there's not a faint connection. What is the incentive for the person to go and check for you to like do that? Considering the number of students, ISA as an organization, I apologize, it's not possible. But individually, I'm sure you can do it because even I like found a friend of a friend who could visit the house before we took it. So definitely doable. A lot of people do it. You just have to figure this one out by yourself, unfortunately.
One next question is if service charges are included, uh, the energy label is below C and not mentioned in the survey exceeded. Gas and heating, the energy label. Like it really, like if you're talking about energy costs, it really depends on how you use your house. Sometimes when it's too cold, sometimes it's actually cheaper just to layer up in the house and then sit, or if it's too much, just go to the university and study in the university as well. So there are ways to control your energy prices, I would just call that. So they might say that it will still 40 or 12. Like what happens is usually in private housing, you take up a contract, they someday, so you keep paying a fixed amount, maybe it's 50, 60, 70, whatever the amount would be, and you keep on paying that, and after end of the year the company checks everything. Usually there's this few companies called Waterfall and other ones as well, where you get an app so you can see your daily usage if you have a smart meter in your own house, and then you can then figure out that, oh, is your energy higher or lower, and then accordingly take decisions to maybe try to not use gas that much and electricity very wisely. If you use things wisely, the prices should be good enough, like it shouldn't overshoot a lot. So that would be my suggestion.
Don't worry about the energy pricing for now. Don't worry about the utilities because that's like the last thing you should worry about. Just think about the house right now. Even if it's bad, talk to the current tenants and just accept it, whatever deal you get. I mean, that's the harsh reality. So, yeah, don't worry too much about this right now.
Yeah, like energy, as I was saying, like don't stress too much about energy. I'm just giving you one more aspect just to be aware of. It's just something to be aware. It's not like a deciding factor that, oh, if it's G, I'm not gonna go for it. You can go for it as well because you need a house eventually. You know, having a house is much more important than figuring out what would be your energy prices. You can then later on budget your money in manner where you can sustain for longer. So really focus on hunting the house, weighing your options. If you have two options, great. I would say you got lucky that you have two or three options to choose from. So just weigh your options out. Just think a little bit, but you have to act fast because it's usually like you can also get it, and then they'll be like, "Oh, it's done. Sorry, the house has gone to somebody else because you responded 10 minutes later." So that's also gonna happen. So just be aware, be swift, and then just think accordingly, and then go for it. Yeah.
Also, like generally, just to address Siddharth, maybe you can address how sublets work, maybe.
So how usually sublets work is usually if suppose for example I have a house where I am staying in it and I'm going away for a vacation or something like that, then usually start putting sublets out on WhatsApp and any other places. And most of the times they are not registered because they are very short term. So how you get is you just get in contact with them, you just send them a little bit of like I will literally say make a small description about yourself, who you are, what you do, just a little bit traits about you that okay, I'm this type of person, I enjoy this and this and this, just very short, not like an entire long story, but like very short. Maybe if needed, add a picture to it just to make it look nicer. So it's like applying for a job, for example, to make it look nicer. Because when you apply for these, then they're like, okay, because they're gonna be judging like, okay, if this guy's gonna replace me for 2 to 3 months in my house, I just want to quickly see that, oh, whether the guy is fine or not. They just look mainly at that. So that's the way to get it. And that's mainly through like sublets. You won't find it on platforms. You'll only find it in WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups and everything. And just to be sure, make sure never, never, never sign a contract without seeing some details. One quick tip, if they put up photos, right, of those places up, and you see this room is looking very fancy and everything, and the rent price looks a bit more like sketchy. What big good tip I can give you is just look at the photos where the windows are, because they'll also give you an address, right? Just go on Google Earth, put the address down, and you look at the street view and just look at the windows from outside, whether how they look like. If the windows are square and if the photo is also square, then it is a bit more legit, because I've come across things like this where this is the one way to filter out all the scammers. So that's one way I would do it.
Adding on to what Siddharth just said, any photos that you receive which doesn't have a view of the window is again bit sketchy, I would say. If you're not seeing greenery outside the window, Netherlands is very green, so that's another red flag. So do not like, this is something that I was also told. So be very skeptical. It's very easy to get scammed since it's such a huge deal to get housing here. Always question it, always try to have a look at it through WhatsApp video call or through any of your acquaintances or something.
Next question is, suppose someone finds an unfurnished house, what are the suggestions to get the place furnished? Don't worry about that. The second-hand market is just so huge over here. You will find a lot of things. Like there are people where if suppose they're moving out, they also leave their entire furniture on the, how do you say, on the road, where they expect people to just take it away and somebody else can use it. And we might think as Indians like, okay, I'm not going to use a furniture from a street. There are people who actually do it as well because they are actually in a good condition as well. But if not, there are also a lot of secondhand stores where you can find a lot of other things as well. So you can find that. Marktplaats is one, Facebook Marktplaats is one. Then if you suppose want to go for something new, I would first suggest, first before getting into furniture, first find a house. And then I would say once you come here, you will easily find a lot of people who know a lot more secondhand stores in Delft or around Delft. And then you will be able to find furniture for yourself.
So you missed one question above. The question is about if Kunal says, if I haven't gotten a mail from the uni about duo housing yet, should I go ahead and search for private housing and book also if possible? I think Manvi or Harshita can take this up.
Uh, so I paid my fees really, really late, and you will not. I mean, for me at least, when I was confirming, I confirmed in May. So for me, while confirming itself, it was specified that I will not get any assistance from the university for housing. So for me, it was very clear again. But if it's not clear to you, it's just you can just contact the if I'm not wrong, it's called esa underscore contact at tudelf.nl. But whatever contact center email you have, just email them. They're very prompt with their replies and they're very helpful in this sense.
So yeah, my experience with this, like even I paid somewhere, late in May. So I got a mail saying that I'm placed on a waiting list. But so I gave up all hopes. I mean, waiting list, hundreds of students are in a waiting list. So I'm not sure, if that would be reliable. I would say even though you are on a waiting list, please look externally. I personally looked externally. I got a room in Yakpad, which is in Raizai, and I booked it too. But then, luckily in mid of July, I think I got a mail from the contact center of TUDAL saying I have an option to choose a duo housing, and I got a duo housing by the end of it. But then I would say that please don't rely, just because you're on a waiting list, because there are hundreds and 200, like more than hundreds of students on the waiting list. So there's a very slight chance that you might end up getting it. So please look outside. And yeah, like anytime, even if you book a room outside, like I booked it in Yakpat, but then at the end when I got a room in Duo, I canceled that. Of course, a minimum, I think 200 euro, 250 euro, but that initial fee will, you lose that. But I think if you get duo any time, in the end also, if you have an option and you get duo, please choose duo, because it's in Delft. It's, that initial 200 euros will go, but then it'll save you a lot if you stay in Delft, I feel. So yeah.
Also, one other point, even if you are on a wait list, when the university is stating in their application that they will not help you with housing, they are very serious about this. So do not think that having a wait list or having any expectation from the university will lead to anything fruitful. Be very proactive with housing, because to me personally, more than my academics in my first year, searching for a housing was a bigger concern. It's very difficult in Netherlands, so take that very seriously.
Let me see the questions. I'm sorry.
I personally like my room and I'm happy with my room.
Okay, I see that there are a few questions above also. I have someone, KJ says, I have someone from my family visiting Delft in next week. Really nice. Can it help us in getting in touch with available homes? If you already, that's the thing, you have to line it up, I guess. So you can always, because they have these visit days. I forget the Dutch word for it, but then yeah. So in visit days, a lot of people come and see the house. It's a viewing. So if you can line it up along with their visit, then kudos to you. That's an amazing planning. But it is possible. You can always like do that. It happens in groups. So the next question is there any website where we can find the travel costs, like using the train tram for commute? Does 9292 help with that info? Yes, there is cost info in 9292 as well. And it includes everything, the tram, the buses, the trains. I think, yeah, it has it. Oh, that has been already answered. The next question. What's Yardpath's refund policy regarding booking? I am sorry, I don't know. Maybe.
I can, yeah. So basically, when you book a house here, or when you sign a contract with either Duo or any other external parties, you pay about 3 months of rent. That is first month and the last 2 months. So August and next June and July, you pay 3 months of rent. Plus, when you're signing the contract, you have some only one-time contract fees. That is about 200 to 250 euros, I think. So in total, like when I had booked my room, I had paid about 1,800 euros. That is 3 months of rent plus 200 euros of initial costs. So when you cancel a room, I think they have a policy saying, just if you cancel 1 month before your contract starts, you will get, a certain amount. I think 50% of your, they will return all the 3 months rent, but the initial cost that you pay, the 200 euros, that will be just 50%. And if you cancel your room 2 months before the contract starts, then it will be more. I think it is the whole of 200 euros will get, that will not get refunded. So I think the 200 euros will not get refunded, and you will get the whole rental refund back. So I hope this answers your question.
Yeah. Also, then one more thing, just to be aware of, sometimes these makelars, they can also ask for a finder's fee. They're like, hey, I found a house for you, pay me 600 euros. That's like the first rent off. And they will say that, oh, this is a very legit practice. It is technically not, because they are getting money from the landlord for finding a person for you. So just be aware, if they're asking for way too big amount, that means it's actually very sketchy. So just be aware about this, that technically the maklas are not supposed to ask a finder's fee from you. Are there any other questions which we can answer?
Also about Yakpad, the site that you look on, I think we have inserted the website also on the presentation, so you can go back and look. So the people there are very, like, the agents who are putting it out are very nice. So they reply to every mail of yours in a very nice way and a good extent, and they'll be more clear about the refund policy and everything. So book your room, and if it if you get a room, if you get a duo house later, then you can cancel it, and they will for sure give you the procedure and the refund policies of theirs. So please contact them on their website or their email.
Thank you, Harshita.
So there's another question by Govind. I paid my fees yesterday. What is the probability that I get good housing? Good probability, I guess. It's pretty early, right? No? Okay, things have changed in the past 2 years. I'm sorry.
I mean, you are at a good place, I would say, in a waiting list, because it's, by April end, if you pay, you have a very good chance. I mean, you have a chance, like a short chance of getting duo housing. But I think from the first week of May, they start putting the students in the waiting list. You have, I feel, a good chance there, but I wouldn't promise anything. So yeah, sorry about that.
Next question. Hari Krishnan asks, how reliable is the public transport in Netherlands? Is it okay to completely depend on train and bus network? And what are the seniors' opinion on staying a bit away from Delft? Asking in relation to the studio, lecture timings, and course difficulty, architecture. In-house architecture expert said.
I would say bus networks and train networks are reliable, but of course there can be days when they are usually on time, but there could be days when they are delayed as well. But and morning usually, if suppose your like lecture timings, and also it really depends which studio you're gonna be taking into. But sometimes they do get delayed as well. But it's not that it's a big problem. You can still manage, and it's not like oh, if you come five, ideally you have to be in your studios on time. But sometimes if you tell them that oh, the train was delayed, it's not that they're gonna throw you out of the class. So it should be fine, I would say. Finding a house is a much bigger priority.
The only I feel like, let's say, I was very nervous when I was staying in The Hague was about exams because I used to bike usually. At least, let me paint a picture. I was 13 kilometers away from the university, and for us, it was like a group thing where all seven of us we bike to the university as together as possible, and that was fun when the weather is good, of course. But for exams, we took the train and the buses and whatnot. So that is when it's a bit I would say on the edge, where it is a risk that you're taking. So what I used to do is like travel much early, at least 2 hours before my exam or something like that, so that there's some buffer time. And those are the things I feel you should again have this in mind that when you are relying on public transport, there are some risks, especially during exams. I feel that is the biggest risk.
Next question is, should I try to book a place already and cancel it if I get Duo? Yeah, I would say, but always when you are signing something, even though if it's in Dutch, use Google Translate, but read your contract thoroughly and usually look for the refund policies that, okay, if you're canceling something, if you're paying like a deposit, how much of it is refundable and how much of it is not, and based on that, choose. But of course, if it's like 100, 200 euros deposit as like a booking fee or something, and if they say it's not refundable, but you're getting a duo housing, I would say that from my experience, I would say go for duo housing anytime because it can make your life as a student a little bit easier for sure when it comes to housing repairs and then other parts. Duo is sometimes better in these, and then the private landlords sometimes are very reluctant on fixing anything in the house. So just be aware of this.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like, yes, there is a very good social. Okay, I'm going a bit off track here. There is a good social life in bigger cities. There are like more options. But I feel like Delft has that student energy. I missed out on that in my first year and I feel bad about it. So, I mean, yeah, staying in Delft over staying in Hague or Rotterdam any day, I think.
But adding on to whatever was said before, it's fine if you stay in The Hague or Rotterdam in the beginning. You can still stay active on all of these platforms, and if you find something better, then you can move later. Because once you come to Delft or once you come to the Netherlands, it becomes easier to look for a house because you're there. You can go for viewings, and you make more connections. You know more people, so it's easier to move after you come here or to find a place after you come here. So don't be disheartened if your place is a bit far in the beginning. Just get a house in the beginning and then look for, after coming here, look for closer places that are closer.
10 minutes.
Also, I hope that answers your question. And the next question is, I've been checking the Plaza housing. I hear there is a Plaza housing on campus, but I'm not able to find Delft on their website. Why is that? So, like, so there is a Plaza housing. No, yeah, it's just opposite, the campus. And it's called. You can check it by the name of Van M. Denstraat 454. So I will just put it in the comments and maybe you can check that out. Yes, you can put this. But I'm not sure why you're not able to find it. But if maybe just put this and check it. you can maybe find it.
Next question is usually how much time do they provide before I pay the deposits and booking fee? It is very subjective. But if someone is being, especially be aware of scams, this is one trick which a lot of scammers use. They'll be like, oh, currently I cannot give you because I'm traveling, I'm in Copenhagen or XYZ. They'll give you a place that, oh, I'm here or there. But you just pay the deposit right now, and then you can send your friends or something over to find the housing. This is like a common trait of scammers that they will tell you this. So always never pay a deposit before you see the house and do some checks from yourself whether the house looks legit or not. And when you say usually how much time do they provide before I pay the deposits and booking fee, as I mentioned, it is usually mentioned on the contract and it differs from contract to contract. Some people would say you have a week or two. Some people might say you have to do immediately. So it would be very subjective question. I would say it depends on the contract.
And also, like once you pay, there be keep in mind that you have like a period which it will take time for transferring the amount from India to the Netherlands. There are some procedures and it goes through some this thing to get to the Netherlands. So for me, it took about 2 weeks. So I would say please keep that buffer period in mind and pay as soon as you get, you read the contract and you're sure of it. Please pay as soon as possible because it will take time to, transfer the amount.
I don't see any further questions. So yeah, people, it's okay. You can just even open your mics and talk because we have 22 people. So it's all right if you still have any questions you can ask, I think. So the session is active till 11:15. But if there are no questions in 2 to 5 minutes, we can close the session.
And you can always raise your, like, you can always rewatch this. This will be uploaded on YouTube later on. And also the group is still active on WhatsApp, so you can always keep on asking the questions there. But just to get a quick check, do people have any other questions or is all the questions more or less answered?
Yeah, so we have a question. Can you give a list of sites I can look for housing? I think the presentation had it, if I am correct.
Yeah, it
And
did.
Yeah, but like we just want to clarify that we have put like most of the like websites on the presentation, but there might be, some things like Plaza we've not included, but there are many external websites you can also look into. These are not the only websites that are available.
What we can do is, once we finish this, when we put it up, right, you can just go back to the YouTube recording and then look it up. So don't worry that you've missed it. But there are, just to quickly say it, they are usually Delft House Hunt Group. There is Perarius, Funda, Holland to Stay, Carmanet. There are some Facebook groups. They've also marked some of them asterisks where there is more scams than usual. And there is Rentbird and Rent Slam as well. And there is Zior as well. XIOR. There are Zior as well. So does that answer your question, Govind? Awesome. Also, are there any other questions?
I have one. I'm not sure if this has been asked already, but if I was to purchase a subscription for the one of the rental housing agencies, which one would you suggest, or when is the so I want to purchase one right now, but then most of the housings are not available from August. Like I think in June or July there'll be more openings in August. So should I wait, or by the time it'll be too will it be too late?
I would suggest, as I think Fatah also answered this previously, I would say if you're getting a housing now, just take it. 1 month or 2 months of extra rent is worth paying than not getting a house later on. Because
I mean,
imagine,
I'm talking about the subscription.
yeah,
You need to
subscription
purchase.
also you can take because you need the subscription to get the house, right?
Yeah, but then should I get it now or should I wait till June or July?
I would say first it depends when you've paid your fees, but if you feel you want to go for exploring private housing, I would say start now because imagine you are just not the one who's going to be a student finding a house in Delft or XYZ places. In
Mhm.
August, in flux, I think TU Delft has more than 50,000 students coming, and imagine you're competing against at least half of them. So as
Okay.
fast, the more fast you are, the better it is, I would say. And Rent
Okay.
Slam and Rent Bird is something which I've newly discovered. They are the ones where they literally you just put a search and they keep on sending you emails when the listing is up. And the whole game over here is fast fingers first, like fastest finger first logic. If you see something, apply for it. If you get it, amazing. If not, try something else. But it's always first come first serve basis because the moment a listing goes up, everybody's hunting for a house. So that's how I would say it. So I would still suggest Monica that you start now only. It's fine.
All right. Thank you.
If I may ask, what sort of websites are you looking for? What sort of subscription you're looking for in some website? I'm trying to understand the
There are
options right now.
monthly ones, like there is a monthly option and there's a 3-month subscription.
Which service I meant, like which company?
Uh,
Is it like Carmenet or
yeah,
something else?
Carmenet and
Yeah.
Ferrari, Funda, and all
Oh, okay. Ferraris and Funda also have a subscription. I don't know because I took a Carmenet subscription and
that.
I
Mm-hmm.
did find a house in Rijswijk through that. So
Okay.
it is possible. But
I
yeah,
will
one thing I
relying on
feel,
Carmenet. Yeah, go on.
yeah, so one thing I feel is that a lot of houses in Carmenet, they're looking for Dutch housemates. So it's a bit more selective in that sense, in a way. So I found few houses in what I've heard, like my Dutch classmates get through Carmenet, but it is possible. I did take a Carmenet subscription for I think 3 months around this time in May.
Okay.
There's
All right.
also
Thank
this
you.
one which says huurwoning.nl, and there the subscription is like you get a free trial of 7 days or I think 2 weeks or something like that. I actually did that as well because before 2 weeks got over, I canceled my subscription. So in a way it was free and I could still apply for a lot of housing. So there's also websites where you could like can pay for now and then just cancel it before the free trial gets expired. So Euro warning is one of them. But again, over there the listings come usually the next day. It's like similar to Pararius and everything. So you can try Rent Slam or Rent Bird or more other ones. Like as Harshita has right now just given an entire list of websites. So just try them and see how it goes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, guys, any other questions you have?
Okay, then what we can do is we'll close this room for now. Yeah, also a very, very big disclaimer that we are not endorsing any providers, that they're legit or not. Just proceed at your own risk because scams is a common thing over here. The few tips which I shared with you, just be aware of that, try them out, and most of the times you should be able to find a house. So good luck, guys. If is uh PD. Oh wow. I think the insurance questions and everything we can take up in the next webinar. But I think if OPD is a part of not, I think it is really dependent on the insurance you're taking. So you'll have to read the insurance details.
Yeah. What?
OPD is operation.
No, OPD is outpatient department.
Outpatient department. Oh,
Yeah.
outpatient. Yeah.
Outpatient department.
Yeah, I mean, if that is what it meant, assuming collectively that that is what it meant, yes, it's possible because you will. I mean, it comes later, but you register with the general practitioner in the municipality, and then you can just call for an appointment, and you would just visit. It is possible. So yeah, not going to say any more to confuse all of you here.
Okay, then good luck, guys. We'll see you in the next webinar.
Thank you.